You're listening to the Packernet Podcast Network.
You ever hear of test driving a phone network? Well, US Cellular is letting you test drive their nationwide 5G for free. Try out US Cellular wherever you have spotty service, your commute to work, that one spot in your house where your service dips. It's as easy as doing a little beep boop pop boop pop with your phone. That's the buttons, that's the noise they make. Anyways, test drive US Cellular's nationwide 5G coverage for free for 30 days. Just download the Try Us app. US Cellular, built for us. Terms apply. Visit uscellular.com/try us.
You're a podcast listener, and this is a podcast ad. Reach great listeners like yourself with podcast advertising from Libsyn Ads. Choose from hundreds of top podcasts offering host endorsements, or run a reproduced ad like this one across thousands of shows to reach your target audience with Libsyn Ads. Go to libsynads.com now. That's LIBSYN ads.com.
Surprise, surprise, surprise. We went live a little early. Got Jacob in here, man. He was chomping at the bit. And we're going to get things cranked up here right off the bat. First of all, welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on Packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. You can email us, PackersTotalAccess@gmail.com. You can text us, 865-658-5824. Joined alongside Jacob in Wisconsin, here to cover training camp this morning. I tell you, Jacob, I'm excited about this one, man, because you get a little deeper into the pads and things start to really, really kind of come into focus. What are you looking for today, man? How you doing? Just give them a little intro. I'm going to turn this AC on, man. It's getting hot in here.
Yeah, I got a little – by the way, I bought a little mini fan that has a little AC compartment where you can just basically drop in ice cubes. It's the best thing I ever bought. It's so
what
good.
I've got. Mine's so like this big, right? And you put ice water in it, you're good to go. But go ahead.
So nice. Other than that, I'm good. It's going to be hot today. It's going to be very hot. By the time that they're done with practice, it should be pretty close to 90, I believe. So, one, I want the guys to stay hydrated and stay healthy, but I look for them to take that next step and to be even more aggressive than yesterday. But I hope they maybe dial it down a tad bit. They ended up having a few scuffles, if you're not familiar, if you didn't watch this yesterday, or if you're just getting kind of caught up. Matt LaFleur even talks about it, which we could probably cover later.
I've actually got it right now if you want to hit on it.
Do you?
Yeah. Look at you being all professional. Let me cue this up, and then you tell me your thoughts afterwards. You finish your thought there. Okay, here we go. This was Matt LaFleur when he was asked about the fights, the scrums, if you will, the scrapping at practice.
But is there somewhere
just
a line somewhere between the guys being competitive and enthusiastic and maybe forgetting that they're teammates? Or
you definitely want the guys out there competing to the best of their ability. You want guys being physical, but you want people to get out of practice healthy, and that's my number one concern every time we go out on the field is are we competing at our highest level? Are we getting better, but are we coming out healthy? And I think that is these guys got to understand that it doesn't matter what side of the ball you're on. If somebody goes down and somebody gets hurt because we're not being smart, it hurts everybody. It hurts the entire football team. So I appreciate the competitiveness, but at the end of the day, we are a team. It does get – football's an emotional game, and sometimes tempers do flare, but more than anything, I just want guys to compete and keep each other safe.
There you go. So, Jacob, what do you think about that, man? Obviously, LaFleur trying to address it, trying to stay out front of it, man. It's like when you go out to the club or to the bar with the boys. There's always one knucklehead that almost gets you thrown out, right? Now, if you're saying, no, our group don't have one of those, guess what? That's you, buddy.
It's you.
Yeah. What do you think, though, Jay? What do you think about the fight? And I think they'll tone it back, don't you?
Yeah, I'm partly to blame for this too, because if you remember, I was making fun of, I think it was the Chiefs or maybe the Texans when they had some off the field scuffles on their first days of padded practice. I was like, look at these guys. It could be us. And then, of course, we start scuffling. And I will say, though, it would be the two players when I thought about it, Dontavian Wicks and Keyshawn Nixon. That makes total sense because both those guys have a little bit of an ego, have a little bit of a, the ability to talk a little smack. So, but yeah, I mean, I think LaFleur handled it perfectly. Just making sure that the guys maybe wake up with their piss warm, not super hot. Save the hot for the game days and for the scrimmages and that kind of stuff. But
yeah, our guys better wake up with their piss hot, like I said before. So.
Yeah, now you're saying what? You're confusing me, Matt, So
They did. They woke up with it hot.
No, I think it'll be good. I think it just maybe shows that they've been waiting to actually start getting physical, and then they just got to maybe dial it back, that controlled chaos. But I would rather them be having to be told to, hey, tone it down than Matt LaFleur, because remember when that was years where we need guys with more intensity. Like that was where that basically it all kind of started. Yeah. Remember the all gas, no break. We went through years of guys being kind of little. I don't want to hit. I don't want to get intense. Remember Matt LaFleur had to dial in music just to get these guys up and moving. So I'm just excited that we got to dial it down.
Yeah, me too, man. You would rather have to dial it down than try to amp it up, right? And LaFleur used to talk about, what was it he said? Bring your own juice, right? He would talk about that because, especially during the COVID year, because if I remember correctly, you correct me if I'm wrong, didn't Matt take over in 2019? Am I thinking right? So I think it would have been, his first year might have been, it's either his first, I think it was his second year, was the COVID year. So he was always talking about, you're not going to have energy of the crowd. We're going to have to amp it up. You got to bring that with you. And now we're having to tone it down a little bit. So mission accomplished, right? You love to hear it for sure. So a couple other things we can hit on here before practice gets cranked up. We were going to try to wait until 11 a.m. Central Time, and we just couldn't hold off. I text Jacob, and I know he was sitting in front of his camera like this, waiting to get started. So here we are. That's why we decided to do it. But first of all, I want to give a shout out to Trucker John, who texted me this morning and said, we made it, sitting at the 40-yard line. Do you know if Tim is here? To the best of my knowledge, Trucker John, Tim is not there. And I told Trucker John that in the text because I think Tim is still in Milwaukee. He was going to try to make it back Sunday, but I'm not sure if he made it yet or not. So you may see him pop up over there. But Tim, if you are watching, listening, and you are at camp practice, look for Trucker John there at the 40-yard line. I'll tell you, John has been an avid listener of the show, always encouraging, battling some health issues, and just always tries to make PTA a part of his day. And we appreciate it more than you know, Trucker John. And I know he had recently, if I understood correctly, had to kind of step away from driving trucks for health reasons. And enjoy your time, man. Kick back, relax, watch some Packers football this year, and don't stress over that. But appreciate you sending that text over this morning, buddy. So something else I'm really excited about, Jacob. Paul Brettel tweeted this out. LaFleur says there will be some one-on-ones happening at today's practice. So you know what happens with one-on-ones. There's even more fights typically.
Yeah, that's true. For sure. Does that mean one-on-ones on the O-line too? And then on
it's a very vague statement. The thing that I envision were one-on-ones, receivers and corners, but there's probably one-on-ones across the board, I would imagine. But the big thing that I like is that press situation. Get Jair out there on a Jaden Reed or on a Christian Watson. That's where you get that competitive nature. But again, there's multiple drills that can be one-on-ones. We'll see how that goes. But let's see here. You mentioned the rookie safeties. You sent this over to me. It's pretty cool. Ryan Wood had tweeted us at by Ryan Wood. You can follow him on X. Said Matt LaFleur a bit bullish on Packers rookies safeties Javon Bullard and Evan Williams. Quote, I'm really excited about both those guys. It all starts, certainly they have a skill set, but the mental ability of both those guys being able to retain what they learned in OTAs. So it's obvious that both of those guys, extremely high football IQ. That was something that was on all over Javon Bullard's scouting report. Evan Williams, obviously, you could see him being able to read and diagnose at the college level. Will it translate over to the pros? But Jacob, you sent that over to me, man. What's your take on that?
Yeah, well, I guess I can just pose it real quick. I don't know why. I woke up in the middle of the night and I started looking at different articles and stuff. And then I listened to Ryan's podcast really early this morning at like 4 a.m. or something. And he made a comment about how McKinney may have got not burned or anything, but I think that the touchdown was maybe had McKinney on coverage and some other maybe deep crosser. He was on coverage kind of thing. And I started thinking, like, what happens if at the beginning of training camp, or at the beginning of the regular season, or more realistically, I started thinking at the end of the year, let's say at the end of the year of this season, it's clear that Bullard and maybe Williams should be out there starting. Because let's say every time they're out there, we've been rotating them, every kind of, whatever the situation, it's just very clear that they're the two best safeties. What do we do in that situation with McKinney? Do we try to move on, trade him, cut him out? Like, what would you guys think in that scenario? Because we still have Ola Home Depot
Right.
and Anthony Johnson, who apparently has looked decent. So I'm just wondering, like, what would you do?
I know what my response is, and it's a very boring response, obviously. It's not, whoa, shockish or anything, but there's going to be injuries. There's going to be. Yeah. Now, if you're asking what would I predict, look at how they gave Savage all that time. When a general manager invests a first-round pick into a player, albeit a safety in that situation, he did not want to give up on Savage because you don't want to admit you're wrong there. You still see the natural talent and ability. Well, when you go out and spend all that money on Xavier McKinney, it's going to take him falling flat on his face before they would even think about benching him. As far as trading, there is no chance of that, even if he hit rock bottom, because there's so much cap penalty involved there. And I don't have his contract in front of me, but I guarantee you would be eating a ton of cap root. And I know there's some people that are going, why are you guys even talking about this? We want McKinney to be great. Completely agree. But if you look up and the two rookies are just as good, if not better than McKinney, if that's the conversation we're having, it's a damn good problem to have, right? I think you'll just see a healthy rotation like we have in the past. And just think about it, though, Jacob, how many times, like Rudy Ford couldn't get on the field last year because of injuries, right? Like, yeah. When I say that, it's like 1 second he was unavailable, the next second Savage wasn't available. And then when they finally did get healthy, it was like Rudy kind of got stashed to the backside. I think you'll see a healthier rotation of safeties with this new defense. I mean, that's really – there's so many times that when a training camp kicks off, you look up and you go, okay, they're doing this right now, but it's early in camp. And then you get later in camp and in the season, and you look back and you go, man, I really wrote that off as that's just early camp quirks. Yep. And it being what they actually do, I could see a heavy rotation, me personally.
Can I give you a little camp update quick?
Yeah, sure.
This is per Paul Brettel. Not practicing today is Zane Anderson, Deslin Alexander, Keyshawn Banks, and then we got Elton Jenkins with a veteran rest day, and Josh Myers is apparently back after missing the last 2 practices with that personal matter. There it is right there. Look at that.
Perfect. Yeah, that's good stuff, man. So Zane Anderson, no big deal. Deslin Alexander, no big deal. Keyshawn Banks, no big deal. Josh Myers being back. We know Elton's healthy. So I like this, man. We're going to get a good look at Josh Myers. Let's see what this new one gapping scheme does and how Josh Myers handles it. That could be a big test, right? So yeah, we'll keep checking in there for sure. I'll go ahead and hit refresh and make sure nothing else comes down the pike here. I'm following Paul Brettel pretty close today. Do you want to follow? Who would you like to follow today, Jacob? That way you can let me know, hey, so-and-so tweeted something.
I'll follow Ryan Wood.
Okay, you got Ryan Wood. I got Paul Brettel. Let's roll in that direction. Now, someone else actually spoke on Jordan Love. You guys know I'm a big Greg Cosell fan, have been for a long time. He's someone who studied the game of football since the 1970s, works at NFL Films. He's the senior producer for NFL Matchup on ESPN. Why the heck they've got it playing in the middle of the night live as opposed to a time during the day where people could actually watch it is beyond me. It's a phenomenal show where he breaks down the X's and O's. He was asked on the Ross Tucker Football Podcast about Jordan Love, and more specifically what Ross Tucker asked him was like, hey, he only had a half a good season. Are we sure he's the guy? This was before the contract. So I love going back and grabbing stuff and people's takes before news actually drops. Here's what Greg Cosell had to say about Jordan Love.
Question, Greg. Are we sure that he is a long-term top 10 quarterback in the league, or does he need to show a little bit more? And I know he was fantastic at the end of the year, but Greg, I seem to remember in the middle of the season him having some bad games. And so I guess I'm wondering, when it's a young player like that who hasn't played that much, how the organization determines whether or not, okay, who he was these last 8 games, that's who he is, versus, well, he had a really good stretch after he had a couple bad games right before that. Do you understand the question?
Yeah, but you have to separate the money issue from the player because quarterbacks are going to get paid. He's going to get paid. So that's not necessarily, really relevant to the conversation. They're not going to not pay Jordan Love. What you're asking is a different question. he obviously was up and down through the first 8 or 9 games of last season. And then whatever kicked in, I'm sure it's just experience. Don't forget he was a first-year starter. Okay, he'd been in the league for a number of years, so we think of him more as a veteran, but he was a first-year starter, and then all of a sudden he started to play at a really high level in the second half of the season, and arguably was one of the top 3 or 4 quarterbacks in the league down like I said, the last half. Does that mean every game's going to be like that? Probably not. Could there still be some growing pains? I would imagine yes. But I think when you look at how he progressed and the traits, you feel pretty comfortable, Ross, with the idea that this guy's going to be a really good player. Because one area in which he really progressed was what he saw pre-snap at the line of scrimmage. And that's something, there are a number of plays last year where he audibled at the line of scrimmage and he changed up the play to what turned out to be absolutely the right play. And that's the kind of growth you're looking for. Everybody knows he has the physical traits. That's not the issue. The issue is how he plays the game mentally. Is the ball going to the right place with timing? And I'm sure there'll be still some bumps in the road, but he clearly improved mentally as the season progressed.
Love it. So high praise there, obviously, from Greg Cosell on the Ross Tucker Football Podcast. You know, the big thing with what he said there, we talked about it during the first half of the season, Jacob. The timing was way off. He was playing way behind schedule. He being Jordan Love. The accuracy was an issue, and he wasn't even setting the protection at the time. And by the time we get to the second half of the season, he's not only setting the protection, he's changing the play at the line of scrimmage. He's resetting the protection, telling your tight end to stay in and block. He's doing all these things. The accuracy came together. He was throwing off platform more than ever. As you see right here, Wes Heikowitz just tweeted out quarterback and center reunited. So Josh Myers in the lineup. And also look at number 77 there, Jordan Morgan at right guard again. That dude looks lean, Jacob. Looks real lean. But what do you think about what Greg Cosell said there, man? To me, it's almost like he shrugged it off. Like, it doesn't matter. And this is what we've been trying to say on this show. It doesn't matter whether you think a quarterback's worth that or not. The market is what matters. That's essentially what Greg was saying. You're either going to pay him or you're not. The alternative is let's go try to find another quarterback,
Right. And I think what he honed in on too is that that he has the traits, that he has the ability, all that kind of stuff. And if you can actually go back to when Jordan Love was drafted, and Cosell has high praise where I think he compares the traits to that of he's very Mahomesian in certain ways. And, flash forward to 4 years, and a few of those years you're sitting behind, obviously, Aaron Rodgers. We've seen just the tendencies that he's absorbed, even if it's subconsciously, but it seems like it was some of and then with Tom Clements and all that kind of stuff. I don't know. I like you, am no expert, but I would definitely say if Cosell says one thing and he lists that, multiple different reasons, it's not like you said, he just has a really good arm, or he's got good footwork, or he's got good what am I trying to say? Presence in the pocket. He's got almost everything. He checks almost every single box. And I really do think that this year, after now he's got the contract, the second year starter confidence, I think that now we're going to see an absolute even higher ceiling of Jordan Love, which I don't know how much more I can take. I'm going to get tired of winning.
You're going to get tired. I love it. Absolutely love it. Well, Andy Herman actually just put a tweet out here. Let's go grab it real quick. And a little bit of info here. Andy Herman says, AJJ, Anthony Johnson Jr., the starter with the safeties and walkthroughs. McDuffie, the starting nickel linebacker with Quay. And then obviously right here, he's got the starters. Looks like another vet rest day potentially for Jenkins. Starting line and walkthroughs is Rasheed Walker at left tackle, Sean Ryan at left guard, Josh Myers at center, Jordan Morgan at right guard, Zach Tom at right tackle. Again, these are walkthroughs, so they'll pull Tom off the field whenever they get to the team drills. New injuries were Zane Anderson, Deslin Alexander, and Keyshawn Banks. So those were new additions to the injury report there. So what do you think about what Andy said there? And more specifically, obviously they're given this heavy safety rotation, right? Anthony Johnson Jr. now starting alongside Xavier McKinney, and then them putting McDuffie, giving him a shot there in the nickel. We've seen Edgerrin Cooper he's been that starter with our nickel 4-2-5 defense so far this far in camp. What do you think about McDuffie getting a look there, man?
Yeah, I guess I've been a little more surprised with the heavy rotation with the safety room and the linebacker room, just because I would have thought that they would have wanted to have to find. Well, I guess it does make sense because now that we just talked about it, they do know who their two staples are, where it's going to be Quay and McKinney. So they really want to try to see every single other person, what they do alongside of them. So I guess that makes sense. I would have thought they wanted to maybe take at the linebacker position, for instance, kind of Cooper and just say, hey, man, win this job and just get used to playing next to Quay and just get really comfortable with that. But at the same time, I could see him wanting to just make sure that they have the best starter, the best two out there. And I guess the same thing goes for the safety room, but we just talked about it. Bullard, I'm going to hands down be beating the table that he starts. I don't care if it's with Bullard and someone else other than McKinney, but it's got to be Bullard. I like him even that much. It's got to be Bullard.
I agree, man. I think Bullard's going to be a superstar, dude. I know it's way early. People are rolling their eyes, and I don't blame you. If I heard someone else say it about another player, I'd probably roll my eyes too. But there's something about Javon Bullard, man. He seems to get it. He really does. And we'll find out come week 1, right? Wes Hockowitz just tweeted out this quick video, said Travis Glover, Donovan Jennings, and Michael Pratt getting the crowd going before individual drills. So let's see if we can hear the crowd here. Hopefully there's no language. If so, I apologize. Be ready to earmuff the children if they're in the room. Love it, man. Got to be careful with the music, too. You'd be surprised what AI can pick up. So,
you ever hear of test driving a phone network? Well, US Cellular is letting you test drive their nationwide 5G for free. Try out US Cellular wherever you have spotty service, your commute to work, that one spot in your house where your service dips. It's as easy as doing a little beep boop pop boop pop with your phone. That's the buttons. That's the noise they make. Anyways, test drive US Cellular's nationwide 5G coverage for free for 30 days. Just download the Try Us app. US Cellular, built for us. Terms apply. Visit uscellular.com/try us.
Hey, it's Kaylee Cuoco for Priceline. Ready to go to your happy place for a happy price? Well, why didn't you say so? Just download the Priceline app right now and save up to 60% on hotels. So whether it's Cousin Kevin's Kazoo Concert in Kansas City, go Kevin, or Becky's Bachelorette Bash in Bermuda, you never have to miss a trip ever again. So download the Priceline app today. Your savings are waiting.
Go to your happy place for a happy price. Go to your happy price, Priceline.
We had a really cool video we wanted to share of Jair Alexander. If we were just live on Rumble, we would have shown it. But it's him being mocked up, and it is golden. It is golden. He's when he hollered at Kenny Clark, he said, "KC," and he went, "Give me some of that signing bonus."
Yeah,
love to hear it, man. It seems like the camaraderie is extremely high there, and obviously Matt LaFleur had to come in and spray them all with cold water yesterday because it got a little heated, but. Nonetheless, man, I think it's going to be a fun practice today. So, Travis Glover, man, Donovan Jennings, it's a couple guys. I get those two mixed up. I'm not going to BS you guys. I don't even remember which one of those two were draft picks. I know one was a draft pick, right, and the other was
Glover. Yeah, Donovan Jennings was the undrafted, I believe, from like Southern Florida or something, University of Southern Florida.
So that would kind of lead you to believe that Glover, you said, was the draft pick, right?
Yeah, he was from the is it Western Georgia or Eastern Georgia?
Yeah, I think it might have been Southern Georgia.
Southern Georgia,
yeah. But nonetheless, Travis Glover, man, it kind of feels like he's got the hand up being a draft pick to make the roster over Donovan Jennings, right? But you guys remember Donovan Jennings, I think I'm remembering this correctly, throughout the draft process, he was one of the visits, the top visits they had in, right? Getting a good look at him, Donovan Jennings. So we'll see, man. Travis Glover, you like him over Jennings, at least as it sits right now. And Michael Pratt, too, man, it's another conversation. Are we going to carry three quarterbacks, or are you going to just roll with two? If so, is it going to be Pratt or is it going to be Clifford, you think?
It's too early to talk that kind of talk, man. Bama Cheesehead says Georgia Southern. Just because Clifford has not had a good camp, let's be honest.
What are you trying to say, Jacob?
I'm just saying, man, I you guys know I love Clifford, Mini Brett. I just don't want to think about it quite at this point. I'll make that decision later. But Stacy's on the Bullard train with me, so that's cool.
There you go.
And Crossfire had some nice words saying, love the training camp access. Way to go, boys. Well, thanks. Thank you.
Appreciate it, Crossfire. Yeah.
And then Rick, sorry, real quick. Rick is wondering, where's Emilio Earhart?
Earhart. I love it. Emilio Carhart's what we need to call him.
There you go.
That'd be beautiful. That might have been what he meant there too. But yeah, I love the profile pic there too, man. That's pretty. So people are going, what is it? Is lady friend? No, it's a buck. Okay, everybody calm down. All right. But you never know what people are thinking on the podcast going, I can't see it, Clayton. Yeah, Emilio's normal schedule is
he doesn't work weekends. All right.
Yeah, during the weekdays, typically his fiance isn't off of work yet until like an hour after we go live. So he has an hour to talk ball with us. It works out perfect, right? But the weekends he sleeps in till 1 o'clock, and then maybe a little later actually, and spends time with Jordan. So he can't make it on the show. So it is what it is. But we're a very family friendly operation here. So Eric Sutherland says Emilio's busy celebrating Taco Tuesday on Sunday. Hey, there's nothing wrong with a Taco Tuesday on Sunday, man.
I'm actually going to do that after we get out of here today. I'm going to make chicken tacos. Yeah.
Man, the older I get, bro, the more I like tacos. I don't know what it is, but it's just like you get more and more creative on how to make them just a little bit better, right? Just a little bit better. So, all right, let's see what else we can hit on here real quick before the updates start rolling in a little heavier. I did grab this for us, Jacob. I grabbed us the PFF starting lineup. Now, keep in mind, guys, they're not the best at updating their site in the offseason. So you do see, though, they have went ahead and placed Bullard as the starting strong safety alongside Xavier McKinney. And Jacob, this is probably why there will be people kind of rolling their eyes about the Xavier McKinney conversation we just had. Dude was the fourth highest graded safety in the league last year at an 87.5. If I remember correctly, he had the highest pass coverage grade of all safeties in the league last year. I think that was a real thing. So obviously at the safety position, they've got Xavier McKinney and Javon Bullard penciled in. Now they went ahead and put Quay Walker and McDuffie in as your nickel 4-2-5 backers. They still have Gary and Smith listed as outside linebackers, which it doesn't really matter on this graphic here because they're both going to be edge defenders in our nickel 4-2-5, which last year was the 2-4-5. The only thing that changes is those two outside linebackers now become defensive ends, and those two defensive ends become defensive tackles, essentially. So on the surface here, let's start with McKinney. Bullard, no pushback there, right? That's probably what you're seeing.
Yeah, no, I hope that's what it is.
Mm-hmm. Same here. Now, as far as the linebackers, I think Edgerrin Cooper is probably gonna win that job as that linebacker starting alongside Quay Walker. And the reason I say that is because, precedent. They were willing to just throw Quay Walker right out there on the field his rookie year. I think they'll do the same for Edgerrin Cooper, especially in that nickel look. Although you guys know, I think McDuffie is a pretty good football player, especially in the backup role as a linebacker. But you can see right here too, like, again, PFF isn't everything. But some of the other metrics that we broke down and things that we think are important at the linebacker position, it seemed like I was probably the one who was down the most on Quay Walker on this show, as opposed to the other co-hosts. Quay Walker with a 58.5. He was the 66th highest graded linebacker, I should say, according to PFF. These are overall defensive grades as well. And McDuffie was a 57.1. Do you see any chance where McDuffie could potentially start alongside Quay Walker in that nickel 4-2-5?
Maybe, if anything, for just the first couple of weeks, as they maybe get Cooper a little more well-rounded and start trusting him a little bit more. But like you said, I mean, they were willing to throw Quay right into the fire, but maybe that's because Quay was a first rounder, and I don't know. I like McDuffie a lot, and I think maybe if Hafley wants a little bit more consistency for the first couple of weeks before he starts maybe trusting some of these guys, I could see it that way. But I would hope that by the time the season starts, it'd be Walker and Cooper. That just, those between the two of them, man, so much athleticism, speed, talent, it just would be unreal. Look at that, dude.
Paul Fredo just tweeted it out. Practice number 6. Here's Quay Walker. Look, watch his hands. Watch his hands on the sled here. This is that punch and rip drill. Yeah. When we say rip, guys, watch his arm. He's going to punch, and then he rips. He dips that outside or the inside arm in under the arm of the would-be blocker, and he rips up. And what it does when you do that, the only thing, if it's performed correctly, the only thing the offensive lineman can do is kick, step back further, reset his hands, or grab and hold. And that's what it's designed to do, is put you kind of in that pinch. You punch in the chest, get them off tilt, then rip underneath and try to catch them grabbing, or you just went off the edge. So here we go. Sean Farva in the chat said McDuffie played for Hafley at BC. Could see him starting the year until they get comfortable with Cooper. I think that's a realistic expectation. you know. And McDuffie again, man. Last year I think it was Mike Wall that said McDuffie was the best inside linebacker we had last year. He said it multiple times on his, if I remember correctly, on his show when he was breaking down tape. He's like, I know people don't want to hear it, but McDuffie's your best linebacker right now. So obviously PFF disagrees with that, but I think I would agree with Mike. I felt a little more comfortable with McDuffie out there as opposed to, especially Devondre Campbell last year. And I'm not just saying that because he's gone. It's just by the end of the year, it's like this dude was just floating all over the place, man. So Cheesehead Murph says, I think McDuffie starts the season alongside Quay, then Cooper takes over midseason. So that seems to be the consensus here. Maybe that's how it goes. What you want to see, though, is Edger and Cooper kind of crank it up, obviously, and put some pressure on those guys, right? So if you guys and gals would, we got a bunch of people in here watching. Just take a quick second, hit that like button. We really appreciate y'all making us a part of your day here as we're just kind of keeping up with the Packers Twitter today from all of our favorite follows on Twitter, people like Paul Brettel and Wes Hykowitz, just giving you camp updates all day long. So back
you know what
to
else is a great update real quick.
Yeah, man.
Apparently Rick shot that 9-point buck Minnesota in Hawkta.
Oh, okay. Is that in Minnesota? I guess that's in Minnesota.
Yeah, I think it's pronounced Hawka or something like that, but
I don't know. I think it was Minnesota, I believe. If I remember correctly. So,
sure.
That's breaking news right here on the show.
Dun-dun-dun.
Let's see. Let me go back to Wes Hykowitz real quick, and we'll see if he's got any other updates for us. Nothing so far, so we'll keep our ears to the streets on that front there. Let's go now back to the PFF graphic here of the starting lineup. So let's go to the defensive line now, Jacob. This is where it gets exciting, man. I love the color code system they use too because it really pops out to you. So what you're seeing now, obviously the safety room was an absolute disaster last year. If I remember correctly, you only brought back 2 players, both of which, one was a 7th-round pick and the other one, I think, had like maybe 1 or 2 snaps in Zane Anderson. So now you go out and you draft all these players and you sign McKinney. You kind of double and quadruple dip here in the offseason. Well, when you go to the defensive line room, man, Preston Smith, 70.5. Carl Brooks, they've got Carl Brooks penciled in over Devontae Wyatt in this little setup here. Carl Brooks with a 69.8. He was the 35th highest graded defensive lineman. Kenny Clark, 70.4. He was the 32nd highest graded defensive lineman, interior defensive lineman. And then you got, of course, Rashawn Gary, the guy who's just Mr. Consistent, 26th highest rated edge defender at a 79.0. When you look at this graphic here, Jacob, well, unless Bullard just absolutely dominates like we're hoping it, and some of us are predicting he will, defensive line is going to make this defense go, aren't they?
Yeah, I think for sure. You guys know that I'm super high on Carl Brooks. I always forget that he did grade out pretty darn well compared to, I guess, a lot of the other guys we had there. I feel like we've kind of forgot about Colby Wooden as well. So we do have a lot of decent rotation there. And then again, you guys know I love Slayton as kind of being more of that true nose, big bodied guy. But I think that our edges too maybe don't get the our DNs. I keep wanting to call them edges now, but I don't think they get enough love for the rotation because obviously we know what we get out of Preston Smith. I think he's more steady Eddie than anybody on this team. Obviously Rashawn Gary, we've seen what he can do now. I think there could be just a whole nother element of him being able to get down in that 3-point stance and just go and not have to worry about so much of the other responsibilities that maybe in the other system he was required to do. So if Gary's back to his absolute like Terminator, beast mode, Bane mode form, that alone right there can be a whole different catalyst for this defense. But then if you add in the fact too, we haven't even talked about the jump that maybe LVN could take and Kingsley Enagbare. And again, I'm not even just saying it, but my boy Brenton Cox Jr. apparently has looked pretty good, and he's the same kind of mold, whereas you can just put his hand in the dirt. That was his favorite thing to do in college. If you watch any of his highlights, when he really got going was when he was in that kind of 3-point track stance and just went off the edge, and he was a freak. So I'm excited as all can get out for the D-line in every aspect. It's going to be awesome.
Ben Holden said in the chat earlier, I love watching the camp battles for backups. They have great stories in their own right. I completely agree, Ben, especially in the preseason. That's when I get really excited about the backup stuff. Because, I mean, it's like the Super Bowl to those guys. They're fighting for their NFL careers. To me, preseason is just so much fun to watch. Now, don't get me wrong. We get two preseason games in, I'm going, all right, let's get to week 1. I'm just like everybody else. But I love following those backup camp battles for sure. Here we go. We got Andy Herman just a few seconds ago actually tweeted this out. Says Watson and Wicks. So here's a live shot just a second ago of Watson and Wicks. Obviously on the top part of your screen, you got a little hook route from Watson, and then you've got a little mini slant route there from Wicks. Look at the hands on Wicks, man. That's the thing that I seen improve last year. He's got the feet. He's got the route running. He's got the big frame. He's put on a little bit more muscle. But the big thing is just strong hands. You can see his hands really coming together, Jake. Wicks, I think, is I swear, I think there's so many people sleeping on Wicks. We're so excited about Jayden Reed and Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs. I think when you look at the third down statistics last year, and when it was third down, and many people, if you were to ask Packer fans who is Jordan Love's go-to guy on third down, you would probably think Romeo Doubs, and he may have went to him more than Wicks, but Wicks was the hands down the most effective on third downs, and specifically out of the slot as well. But how you feeling about Wicks potentially breaking into the starting lineup here, man?
I mean, I don't want to say disagree with you there, but Wicks is on like everybody's radar. If you start listening to podcasts, as far as the fantasy football aspect is concerned, everybody's talking about Dontavian Wicks. Like it's almost on everybody's list, every breakout list, every guy you want to take in the late round, it's all that kind of stuff. But as far as actually being maybe a 1 or 2, as far as our wide receiver groups, and then actually, performing that way for the whole year, I mean, I could totally see it. Our guys are so interchangeable. It's, I guess, what's so great about our offense. And at the same time, I have no idea what Matt LaFleur is going to do with these guys this year. It's exciting, but at the same time, it's a little bit frustrating because I don't know. Would you consider him more of like a boundary receiver, like an true X receiver kind of guy? Because he can pretty much do it all, can he?
I think he's capable of doing it all, but to me, he's his best at the slot position. He had the highest passer rating when targeted amongst all of our wide receivers when in the slot. If you were to go off of the stats that I kind of see as important, to me, your starting lineup should be Romeo Doubs as your boundary X. You've got Jayden Reed as your Z. You've got Dontavian Wicks as your slot. Now, people are going, what about Christian Watson? What are you talking about? I just haven't seen it. We've seen it in spurts. But the reality is Romeo Doubs probably took 90% of his snaps at the X position. And when we say X, guy, the X position is basically on the line of scrimmage opposite the Y, opposite the tight end. So if the tight end, if it's a strong right look, the receiver on the line of scrimmage opposite side is your X. Now, there's also a position they refer to as flyer or F in Matt LaFleur's offense. Not F tight end like the Billy O'Brien scheme and system where his second tight end is an F, or he has an F and a U tight end. Funny, right? So the F represents flyer for Matt LaFleur's offense. That's the way it's been explained to me. So that flyer essentially, well, most of the time, if you glanced at it pre-snap, you go, okay, that's the Z. But what happens is they're not on the line of scrimmage, which the Z typically isn't. He's on the tight end side, but off the line of scrimmage. In this case, he'll be off the line of scrimmage, and he'll motion in towards the slot spot or even go opposite side. So it's that guy that's constantly moving back and forth. Now, people say, well, isn't that Jayden Reed? At times, yes. Also at times, Christian Watson. You remember his rookie year, how many end arounds they gave him?
Yeah.
So the more receivers you got that can understand all the choice routes that apply to Matt LaFleur's offense, and there is a boatload of them, then they can all play F or flyer. Guess what? You're off to the races, man. That's where you can really mix and match and get creative. Personally, the only receiver I haven't seen do that was Romeo Doubs. He's predominantly the X receiver. I'm not saying he can't do that, but I think they like his strong hands, his ability to come down with the ball in isolated situations, and that's exactly what you're wanting with your boundary X receiver. The whole point of the boundary simply means the short side of the field. So whichever hash mark the ball is on, that side is called the boundary. Typically, you'll put your boundary X over there so you can use a large portion of the field for your tight end side. So your tight end, your Z, and sometimes your slot. Now, it doesn't mean you won't mix in the slot on the boundary side. We've seen that a lot, but more and more in today's NFL, these 3-by sets are really taking over with bunch, trips, and tray, meaning there's 3 targets to one side, and then you got your 1 boundary X to the other. And the goal is you want to get the coverage cheating to the field side. And now what you've done is what Greg Cosell talks about: elimination, isolation. You want to isolate the boundary X because that's the guy who can make a play in a phone booth, essentially, right? They can shake somebody out, and they got the strong hands to bring down the catch. That's what Romeo Doubs does well. So I can see why Matt LaFleur wants him as that boundary X. Now, Christian Watson, I would love to say he would make a great boundary X because opposite field side, when they go single high safety, you can take shots over the top. The problem is he has a hard time winning in the phone booth like that because he's such a big guy. And I think he can do it when healthy. So hopefully he is healthy this year. One other tweet here, and then we'll get what you're woo-hoo-hooing about here.
That was it. It's a different angle. It was a different angle of Jacobs hitting the bag. Yeah.
Gotcha. So Andy Herman tweeted out, running back 1, this is Josh Jacobs, obviously working on hitting the, I guess the sled. It's technically a sled, ball control, keeping the ball in the opposite hand, that type of stuff. So Josh Jacobs looks good, man. I can't wait to see Marshawn Lloyd. We still haven't seen him, right? He's still injured with the hip.
Yeah.
So,
right.
Yeah, we'll see what happens there. I know that's good news for A.J. Dillon, though, so he can kind of continue to battle for his job there as well. So what do you think about Josh Jacobs, man? You think we're going to see 2022 Josh Jacobs, or do you think 2023 Josh Jacobs, or maybe a blend of both?
Man, I've been trying to – I honestly don't know what my thoughts on Josh Jacobs to this day are. Just because, one, I don't want to bring it back up, but I'll always be a little sour over Jones just because that was, my guy. But at the same time, it's either feast or famine with the 2 seasons, or when you're comparing kind of his best season compared to last season. And it's the fact that we paid him a decent amount of money, and the fact that we do have 2 or 3 other backs that I am super interested in now, with A.J. Dillon slimming down the way he has, with Wilson just being kind of, I feel like, untapped potential still. And then obviously, with what we did in the draft with getting Marshawn Lloyd, who just looks like, to me, that looks like the future in our running back room. So I don't know what my thoughts are on Josh Jacobs in the meantime. I hope that he'd be a good puzzle piece maybe for 2 or 3 years, but I feel like the expectations have to be kind of a little bigger for him to really justify the whole contract and ruffling feathers. But as far as him being a good presence for the team and doing everything that he could to make the transition as smooth, I think that he's done everything, and I'm rooting for the guy. I just don't know. I don't know. I don't know how I feel.
I understand, man. It's still early too. Let's go to Wes Hockewitz's Twitter feed here. He tweeted out a video of Jordan Love to Jayden Reed. So again, Jayden Reed, in my opinion, as things sit right now, he is the best receiver on this team. I just am forecasting Dontavian Wicks to kind of take that over throughout the course of this year. It might be toward the end of the year. Jayden Reed is that dude. When he was drafted, I got so aggravated because there were so many, reporters that were like, this is that slot receiver they've needed since Randall Cobb. And I'm like, why are they calling him a slot receiver? That's not what he did at Michigan State. Like he was literally, he was constantly in the Z. Now, maybe it's because they seen some Z motion to a stack look and running some routes. I don't know. But yes, he can play the slot. And it's great on that shovel pass, that touch pass we talk about on end arounds that essentially is a reverse or a jet sweep. He looks good on that stuff, but I'm telling you, man, he's got the capability of playing Z. And again, when he was in the slot last year, he had a higher passer rating when targeted when he played the Z as opposed to the slot. So that's why I kind of see him as a Z. Right now, I think if there's anyone on this team that you go, that's your wide receiver 1, you've got to respect and acknowledge the fact that he led the team in receiving yards, receptions. He broke, was it Sterling Sharp's record? Did he actually break it, I believe? I keep getting confused on whether he broke it or not. But obviously the rookie record for receptions there in Green Bay. But Jayden Reed, man, I think he's poised to have a big year, Jacob. This might be a 1,000-yard year for Jayden Reed.
Yeah, it's crazy to think that a guy that's a rookie can come in and be that poised and that professional and kind of lead a group of really talented guys. Who was here? Omar highlights the fact that 5 guys in a room that can get you 100+ yards any given week between Watson, Dobbs, Wicks, Reed, and our boy Bo Melton. And I fully expect all 3 of them to get 1,000+ this season. That's what Omar says. That'd be great. That'd be crazy. But it is just impressive to see that a guy like Reed can, like you talked about, who flew way under the radar, I'm sure has a little bit of a chip on his shoulder getting drafted. And honestly, like you talked about, man, I had no idea who he was when he got drafted, and that did kind of tick us off. You even tweaked the whole way that you do draft boards simply because of that one pick, if I'm not mistaken, to the point where we added in. I mean, I think the plan was to get like 300. We ended up closer to 500 by the time it was all said and done. We started doing tweaks, but I think it helps because we noticed a few, things this draft that we probably wouldn't have seen the drafts prior. Yeah, look at that.
That's our draft board. I mean, look at that. It looks like a play call sheet, right? I got all kinds of notes on the back, obviously, but and what Jacob's referring to and what we changed about our draft board process was we take several different factors that we put into kind of our grade analysis. And we go, okay, we average all that up, and here is the grading scheme, the grading system for our would-be rookie draft picks. The one thing that I'd never took into account was 1 year prior to their last year in college. And Jayden Reed, when he was drafted, I'm like, why are we taking Jayden Reed over all these other sides, like 3 or 4 other receivers that were above him? Like, this makes no sense. And I went back and watched the final year of college, his tape, and I'm like, this isn't that impressive. And then lo and behold, I pop in PFF, and his previous year, the grade was much higher. I turned on that tape and I went, whoa, this dude's a stud. Like, holy cow. So it's important to not only take into consideration that final year of college, but the year prior as well. I wouldn't go any further back than that, or you're going to run out of time and ruin your marriage. Right. I've been on the borderline of doing that a couple of times when it comes to football over the years. But so now what we do is we actually implemented his next to last year, he being every prospect on the board, their next to last year in college into the grading system. So that's the adjustment we were forced to make. And you're right, Jacob, Jayden Reed was the reason we had to do it, man, for sure. So again, it's going to come down to deployment too. What does Matt LaFleur want to do from a deployment standpoint? Does he want to play more 11 personnel? He played more 12 personnel than any other coach in the league last year, is my understanding. That's what Jordan Rodriguez said. You guys know she did the awesome podcast called the Play Callers Podcast that highlighted Kyle Shanahan's coaching tree. And she pointed out that the Packers ran more 12 personnel than anyone. That's 1 running back, 2 tight ends. He got that from Sean McVay. Sean McVay started off wanting to run a lot of 12 personnel. And then, of course, they ended up landing Cooper Kupp in the draft. And he's like, why the hell is Cooper Kupp on the sideline? Because I want to stay in 12. So he shifted to 11. Now, don't get me wrong. The Packers still run more 11 personnel than 12 personnel, 11 personnel being 1 running back, 1 tight end, equaling 3 wide receiver sets. But he really likes to lean on 12 personnel, and he loves to run a lot of weak wide zone runs. That's what I'm learning here in the Bobby Peters book, because the reality is when we do chalk talks and stuff, you don't see a lot of running plays because there's not a whole lot of explosive running plays, right? We show you the explosives, the turnovers, the scores, and all that good stuff. But the running game, it goes without saying, it's absolutely huge. So. Big B. Is that what he's trying to say?
I think that's what So Turtles is trying to say.
Let me go take a look. Go ahead, Jacob. Say something smart for a second.
Some other guys, Respect Oranges, made a good point that he's really jacked to see Marshawn Lloyd when he's finally in pads. Fractal of Gods pretty much said the same thing, saying they've got high hopes for Lloyd. I also want to see him in pads. He reminds me again of like a Marshall Faulk, just kind of like one of those scat backs that can get going and stop really, really quickly, start and stop on a dime kind of thing. And I think he's going to be great coming out of the backfield in the passing game as well.
Got it.
Thanks.
I'm looking through Big B's tweets. I may just read them here. A couple of them. Andre Dillard does a great job on LVN. Royce Newman got absolutely ragdolled by someone. So there you go with that.
Those are
Andre
2 tweets I wouldn't expect.
What's that?
I said those are 2 tweets that I wouldn't expect, really.
Right. And let's see. Big B also tweeted out, Walker locks up Preston Smith on the first one-on-one. Clark tosses Ryan after a hood battle. I don't know what that means. Ryan with a good comeback the second time round. Slayton runs through Myers twice. Jordan Morgan does a phenomenal job on Devontae Wyatt. So it sounds like a positive for Jordan Morgan. Myers is having a rough day at the office, boys. Surprise, surprise, right? But again, it is early. It's essentially his first padded practice, right? So definitely worth mentioning there. So it sounds like Big B was asked to not film as well. So we might want to be careful on what we show here. I'm assuming, I mean, obviously these guys have gotten approval to film. Big B does not. So I think they kind of keep that exclusive to the people who are, I don't know how to say this without being rude. The people that cover the team on a regular basis, right? I think is what that comes down to. So one-on-ones upcoming is what Andy Herman just said. Let's pop it on the screen here.
Omar says one-on-one starting now. Yep.
All right, let's see what Andy Herman said. It says Wicks beats Nixon on a slant. Let me just click on this real quick. Yeah, Wicks beats Nixon on a slant. Rees beats Ballantyne.
Reed.
Okay, got it. Reed beats Ballantyne on a comeback. Great route. Again, comebacks typically a Z route, right? Because you're working the two on that side deep, stretch the field vertically, hit a comeback route to the sideline. Musgrave drop with McKinney. I'm assuming that's a drop. He dropped the pass. Watson nukes Stokes. Stokes falls down on an out. So there you go. You're seeing some updates on Stokes. Sick catch by Dobbs on a comeback versus Jair. So Dobby working Jair a little bit. Sims incomplete versus Bullard, overthrown. King, good coverage on Torrey, overthrown. Melton can't come up with the diving catch on a bomb versus Valentine. Let me get on down here real quick. I got to read off the actual screen. There's a delay here. I apologize. Melton can't come down with a diving catch on a bomb versus Valentine. Jordan Love complete to Dubose. He Gilbert on out.
I think it's beat Gilbert on and out.
Maybe that's what it was. Yeah. And listen, let's give him some grace. This dude's firing these tweets off rapid fire from the sideline. I'm not dogging. I'm just trying to decipher here. Okay. Great coverage by McKinney, but nice catch by Musgrave. There you go. Musgrave beat McKinney there. Joe Wilson drops versus AJJ. Had him beat on a corner route. Reed comes up with a contested catch on great coverage by King. Reed a bit slow to get up, but looks okay. Don't you do this to me. Wayne toasts Gilbert for a deep touchdown. Nixon near pick versus Wicks as Wicks fell down on his cutback. So it sounds like Dontavian Wicks getting a lot of snaps in the slot against Keyshawn Nixon. Does it not, Jacob?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, that's where the first fight of the day yesterday started.
Yes,
and
it did.
Wicks is hands down our best slot receiver from a per snap basis, I should say. You know, obviously he didn't have as many snaps as maybe he did have the most slot snaps. I can't remember exactly. I do know that he had the highest passer rating when targeted out of the slot, though. Let's see here what else we got. Beautiful deep bomb from Love to Torrey, who beat Bullard. There's Bullard getting beat. Pearson catch over the middle versus Williams. Could you imagine Big Pearson, big fullback, catching one on an angle route coming at you down here?
Shoot. I like that guy. I wish we'd utilize him a little more.
I love fullbacks, man, but I can't just ignore the fact that they're becoming very, very, very extinct in the NFL. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sick route by Dobbs, who crosses Ja over for easy separation and a nice hands catch. So it sounds like that's probably Dobby at the X working on Jair. That's a cool matchup. Starkey nukes AJJ deep, but drops a wide open touchdown. So Anthony Johnson Jr. getting beat deep, although Starkey did drop it. Dubose Bears beats. All right, yeah. Bears beats
Battlestar Galactica.
Dubose beats Valentine. Milton won his route. Couldn't see versus who. So Andy Herman just doing the Lord's work out there right now, man, with those camp updates. What sticks out to you there, Jacob? Anything you want to talk about? That's a lot of information.
That is a lot. I can't believe he can, compile all that. The Wicks thing is interesting. It sounds like he's getting a lot of work. I've quietly been hearing a lot of stuff about Dubose, just making a catch here, making a catch there. Just
special team play yesterday, right?
Yeah, that's and then again, I have noticed a few McKinney in routes, a lot of his name getting called on as far as getting beat, but I don't know what to think on that.
Yeah. Let's hop over to Wes Hodkiewicz now. He's got a few tweets that he wrapped. And understand some of this we may be repeating. We're doing the best we can. We appreciate y'all hanging out with us today, though. If you would, Take a quick second, hit that like button for us. Feel free to sub to the channel. We appreciate y'all making us a part of your Sunday afternoon here. So Wes Hokowitz tweeted out, good reps between Preston and Walker and Gary and Telfort, who continues to work as the number one right tackle. So obviously Zach Tom just doing the walkthrough stuff. Telfort, man, they're giving him every opportunity possible to win that backup right tackle spot, aren't they, Jake?
Mm-hmm. Sure seems like it.
Yeah. Jordan Morgan still at right guard in team with Ryan filling in for Jenkins at left guard. So you're start to see kind of the puzzles getting put in place. Seems like Telfort might be your backup right tackle. Jordan Morgan may end up being your starting right guard, and Sean Ryan is probably going to be that swing guard. He played a little bit of right guard last year. He's been filling in at left guard for Elton Jenkins. My guess is Sean Ryan probably going to make this roster, no doubt about it. Right? I mean, Royce Newman's the one that we haven't heard anything, have we, man?
Yeah, I think Sean Ryan is about as much of a lock now as he could be, just because, you've seen him now playing snaps at right guard and left guard, and with Elton being out and Josh, it just seems like that's exactly where they're plugging him. And he's an early draft pick. Wasn't he a third rounder still?
Yeah, Sean Ryan.
Sure.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah,
that's correct.
They're going to hold on to him.
Yeah, Wes Hokowitz says, I ain't Larry McCarron, but I thought Jordan Morgan had 2 solid reps while playing guard against Devontae Wyatt in one-on-ones. Kobe Wooden showed power and burst against Tenuta. Now go back to Big B. Remember what Big B said? Jordan Morgan was pretty much manhandling Devontae Wyatt. So it sounds like Jordan Morgan was real deal. Now here's what's cool. If he does play right guard, guess what he can play in a pinch? Tackle, right? Left tackle at that. There's a lot of value with that draft pick, man. There really is. It makes a whole lot of sense. Now let's hit those chats real quick, Jake, if you don't care. I mean, you got a couple in there, don't you? That you got marked.
I believe I do, yeah.
This
is just a random one here that McKnight was asking, how soon it will be until Jonathan Ford gets cut?
That's a great question. Let's do this, man. Let's pop the depth chart up real quick, and let's take a look at it here. So when we look at the interior defensive line, now keep in mind, last year, I'm trying to think, the final 53, albeit we were running a 34 jam, we kept 6 defensive linemen, which essentially were interior defensive linemen. But at the time, when your base defense is that 34 jam look, you got 3 defensive linemen on the field. So essentially what you said is you've got 1 backup per position. Now, I'm not suggesting they're only going to keep 4 defensive tackles. There's a chance they could keep 5, I'm sure. But let's just set it. Let's set it at 5 to be safe here and give our boy Jonathan Ford a legit chance to make the roster. Kenny Clark, Devontae Wyatt, Carl Brooks, TJ Slayton. I feel real comfortable saying those 4 are pretty much a lock. Do you agree, disagree with that, Jake?
Yeah, that's legit.
Okay. Now you got Jonathan Ford and Kobe Wooden. Which one would you take over that to round out your 5th defensive lineman if we do go with 5?
Man, I'd have to go Kobe. Younger. I think a better draft pick as far as where we got him as well.
Yeah. And Jonathan Ford probably going to clear waivers and make it to the practice squad, right? That's a big deal. So you could still keep him. As far as to answer the viewer's question, I would say Jonathan Ford probably won't make the active roster, but he will make the practice squad and maybe get activated a time or 2 throughout the year. The other thing, too, you may carry an extra defensive tackle, right? And the reason I say that is because you may carry 1 less defensive end, because now you got Rashawn Gary, Preston Smith, Kingsley Enagbare, Lucas Van Ness, and let's say you do carry Brenton Cox Jr. this year, which they did all year last year because they didn't want to lose him, right? That's 5 edge defenders. If we were to go back to the final 53 from last year, outside linebackers were the edge defenders. We carried 6, and nothing really changes there. So if that's 5, so if that's 5, and you do carry 6 this year, the 5 that we got so far is Preston Smith, Rashawn Gary, Lucas Van Ness, Kingsley Enagbare, Brenton Cox Jr. Maybe they won't carry a 6th, and here's what I'm getting at. Maybe they carry Jonathan Ford, but they know that in a pinch, Devontae Wyatt and Carl Brooks can both play defensive end with their hand in the dirt in the new 4-3. That makes sense? So maybe that's a way they can kind of bend those final 53 projections just a touch. Does that make sense, Jacob?
Yeah, that makes sense.
All right. Good deal. Let's see what else we got here. I'll come back through Twitter. How long you want to go today, Jacob?
It's up to you. As long as they're, I do have a little bit of cool. Ryan Wood just shared a soaring interception for Carrington Valentine, leaping in front of Malik Heath to intercept a Sean Clifford pass on the left sideline. Valentine keeps making plays in camp. It's another one, another position right there. I really, really think that Carrington could be Carrington. Why can't I say that? I think he could be another sneaky guy. I mean, we have so much competition in that secondary. That could be. I think people may be sleeping on us this year. Actually, to the point where White 009 said, a question with knowing where we are about most teams, where do the pack rank? Where do the packs rank for you in the division and the overall league? I don't know about that question, but as far as where our positional groups rank in the NFC North, I think that by far we have the best secondary. I really do. Because now, I mean, you just look at the depth at the cornerback position, the slot position, and now the safety position. We're freaking stacked. Minnesota's definitely ranked the last. I know that.
Right. Yeah. They've had some tough, obviously tragedy hit with Kyrie Jackson. And then of course you got the injury to the other corner there that was fairly young, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
So what was the question again? If you'll put that back up, if you can, if that's not too much trouble.
This one here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Says question with knowing what we know about most teams, where do the packs rank for you in the division and the overall league? I heard somebody say the other day, I'm trying to think of what podcast it was on that I heard it, but there was some kind of ranking system that came out, and Green Bay was one, I think, of 6 teams that they had as Super Bowl contenders, one of 6 or 7 teams as Super Bowl contenders. So I think it's a slam dunk if everybody stays healthy and they continue on the trajectory they were on last year. Hands down, a top 10 team in the league. I think they'll be competing with the Lions for the NFC North. The Lions are a damn good team, and I'm not going to be one of these fans that just like to, pretend like the Lions aren't as good as they are, man. The Lions are built in the trenches. They're built to last. Jared Goff, I think, is an underrated quarterback. I know he just got a ton of money. What was a $73 million signing bonus, but I think he is an extremely accurate quarterback. That's something that's arguably the most important trait to have as a quarterback in the NFL. I would rank it right now a dead heap tie in the North between the Packers and the Lions. And I would say the Packers are definitely a top 10 team, probably somewhere around that 6 to 7 range. But what about you, Jacob? Did you answer that question?
Yeah, I would definitely say that. I know it. I listened to the podcast, and I believe it was I don't know if it was Mina Kimes or if it was one of the other ladies that I really respect. She had the Packers as one of their top 7 teams to actually make the Super Bowl contenders, basically. And I know that they've been on a number of other lists. I think that they're going to be number 1 in the North. I think that the Lions will give them a run for the money, and that the Bears might be better than we want to admit. But I think that at the end of the day, I'm still going to stick with around like that 12-win mark. But I think we are number 1 in the NFC North, and I think that we're in top 7 of overall teams. That's what I think. And our defense, if our defense is top 3, dude, who knows how good this team could be, what we would be ranked. Because it'd be so nice.
Yeah. And I see what you were talking about. This was the other angle you were talking about, right?
Yeah.
With Josh Jacobs. Yeah, I see what you're saying. And that's the thing that Josh Jacobs is going to bring to the table. He probably runs with a little more power than Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones, it wasn't like he was just a scat back. That dude would lower his head and bring the boom. There's no doubt about that, man. That dude would – he was not scared or nervous to hit if he needed to, Obviously, he got banged up over the years. I think Josh Jacobs is going to bring more of a downhill type, a little more patience in the backfield, but willing to hit that A-gap a little harder as opposed to Aaron Jones. It was quick. His cut was quick. He was outside and trying to make stuff happen with his agility. So just a more balanced back in Josh Jacobs, I think. That's not the dog, Aaron Jones. You guys know how I feel about Aaron Jones. The second he retires and we bring him back to Green Bay, he retires as a Packer, that helmet will get turned around where you can see the autograph again, okay? Until the meantime, can't have it. So there's that tweet you were talking about. Ryan Wood said, soaring interception for Carrington Valentine, leaping in front of Malik Heath to intercept the Sean Clifford pass on the left sideline. Valentine keeps making plays in camp. Man, Sean Clifford's struggling, ain't he, bro? It's like Christmas, Christmas in July.
It's tough. I have not seen or heard many positive things. I'll just say that. I'm not going to keep jumping on the big red dog, but yeah.
Dog. So Ryan Wood also tweeted out, Packers rookie Jordan Morgan impressed in his first showing of 1 versus 1s. in camp. 2 reps against Devontae White, and Morgan stood up White on both. Great feet and able to get big as a blocker to absorb the rush. Good start for the first-round pick. So Jordan Morgan seems to be checking the boxes, ladies and gentlemen. That's exciting. If you all would, please take a quick second, hit that like button for us. Feel free to subscribe to the channel. We appreciate y'all making us a part of your day. I'll comb through here and see some other ones. Jordan Morgan, man, if they hit on that, just the versatility, Jacob, I know we've talked about it a little bit, but the versatility could be absolutely huge, man. Being able to fill in a pinch and tackle and all that stuff. He's essentially can play any position on the line is what I've been told, other than center, right?
Yeah, and I think that people really have to limit their expectations about what a successful first season for him could be. In my opinion, if he ends up starting at right guard and is even serviceable, that's a win. That's a completely worth the pick. And like you talked about, if he ends up developing into the type of player where I think obviously the front office believes he can be, whereas he's a plug-and-play guard and he's a swing tackle on top of that. If that's the case, then absolutely he was worth every single penny. We're just been used to, I think, as Packer fans, that we can plug and play offensive linemen and they just end up being Pro Bowl, all pro 5, 6, 7 year starters for us. And we need to really, I think, take a step back and realize that he's a pretty, young and undeveloped player who's got a lot of raw talent still to be, molded. And I think what better place to do that in Green Bay with our coaches and other guys around him. But as far as right out of the gate, I couldn't be really asking much more. I'm comfortable at our tackle position, so I don't need him to really start being that guy right away. I think it's a perfect learning curve for him to just step in at a right guard position, maybe slowly get comfortable with that, lean on Elton Jenkins and ask him a lot of questions, slowly maybe learn on to kicking out to tackle if he needs to. And yeah, we got ourselves a great swing player that, like you said, can play 4 out of 5 positions. So
yeah. We're back to Wes Hodkowitz's Twitter page now. He says Dillard won his 2 reps versus LVN in one-on-ones, but Van Ness gets a step in team to pressure Clifford, who gets picked by Valentine. So pressure pick, coverage sack. That pick by Valentine, the soaring interception, the highlight interception, it was pressure on the play by LVN. So that's good to hear there. Luke Tenuta getting reps at right guard today with the 2s. So there you go. Tenuta's getting a little bit of cross training there at the guard position. And then Wes Hodkowitz also said Packers mix it up today, having Carlson and Joseph alternate kicks. Both go 3 for 3 from 44 right, 47 middle, and 50 left. So both those guys, obviously, it sounds like Anders Carlson's really having
Anders is crushing it.
Yeah.
He only has missed the 1 kick, and that was just barely, I guess, wide right or wide left, whatever it was.
Let's leave it right there for a second as we talk about another topic. Right? I absolutely love it. Oh, man. Let me go through and see if anybody else has got any other updates. I've got a couple of I know the team stuff's going to start here soon. It's got to, right? That's where we kind of checked out yesterday. Although I do kind of like our system, Jacob, where we can maybe hit on the team stuff on the evening show. What do you think?
I was going to say that might be a little bit smart way to do it. We did pretty much 3/4 of it here live with you, and then we can really break down the team motions maybe a little bit better this evening.
Yeah, and we can kind of put them in order and all that good stuff, focus on offense, focus on defense. So why don't we do that, man? Why don't we just go ahead and wrap this thing up? Hopefully you guys got enough extra content there. I love doing this, man. And again, it's like I've never kept up with training camp this close, and it's because we're having to do a live show and obviously having the listeners and the viewers here. So Turtles agrees that sounds like a good idea. So there you go. I think many of the guys that are in here watching the show right now are like, yeah, I'm going to get divorced if I don't get out here and mow the grass and get something.
Yeah, I got to do a bunch of stuff. That's what I'm thinking.
There you go. All right, man. Well, let's wrap it up there, Jacob. Parting thoughts, buddy. Anything else you want to hit on before we go?
At first, I think this actually is a great way to do it because we get in here, we get the news as to who's where, who's not practicing and why, maybe to see some tendencies right away of who's looking good, who's starting to win their one-on-ones. And then we can kind of absorb that information, come back later tonight, look at how it looks at the team sessions and how everybody's playing together. And we'll take a look at see how the offense, if they've improved and if it took them a little bit less time to get into that rhythm. We'll see if the defense keeps that rhythm up, that they've just been playing with their pee on fire, not in a bad way. No need to go to the doctor, but it's going to be going to be fun, man. I'm excited. This defense has been flying around like the HMMs that they were advertised to be. So I'm hoping that we have some good highlights and that everybody stays injury free. That'd be great. Hopefully, we're not talking about any injuries tonight. So
top priority for sure. If y'all would just take a quick second, hit that like button for us as we file out of here. Also, do me a big favor. If you're sitting here going, no, man, stay live. I want more updates. Ryan Schlip is live right now over at Packernet, okay, on his YouTube channel. You just search Packernet Podcast, and you'll see he's live streaming at the moment. Hop over there, jump in his chat, tell him that Clayton and Jacob sent you, and he'll continue to give you coverage on everything as training camp goes on. And again, we will be back tonight to recap everything that happened in the team drills and any other news that may break throughout the day. So Jacob, thank you for your time, buddy. We really appreciate it. Everybody in the chat, you were awesome. For those of you listening on the pod, thank you for making us a part of your day. As always, let's go out and be the change we want to see in the world. Go Pack Go.